Hey friends, my name is Richie and welcome back to my channel, Gender Not Found. So, it's about 8:30 at night right now, and I'm going to read a little bit of A Guardian Angel. I'm going to start with one chapter, and then I'm going to see how much we can go. I'm going to have to take a break, though, so I can take my pills so the alarm doesn't... Otherwise, the alarm's going to go off while I'm recording videos, and I don't want that, so... And do one video. We're going to do one chapter now, and then I'll take a break and take my meds and stuff, and then I'll be back later to do another chapter, and there's going to be 2 chapters in this video. Chapter 57, Crash and Burn. I swear, Ignitus, you're cheating on me, aren't you? Of course I'm not. I already told you I'm taking care of my grandmother. That's a bullshit excuse. It's like you love that old bag more than me, and I... Excuse me? Of course I love her more than you. More than I love you. She's my grandmother. She's hurt, and she needs my help. You're able-bodied, so if not seeing me is such a damn issue, then find a way to come and see me, because I have more important things to deal with than your insecurities, Angel. Ignitus snapped, not caring that people probably a mile away could hear him. Well, not people a mile away, but definitely Fiona. She was in her side yard, pulling weeds from the flower garden when the sounds of the raging redhead came wafting over, catching her attention. Today Marshall was spending with his mother. It was their usual Sunday. Standing, the blonde dusted the dirt off her knees and wandered towards the front yard, watching as FP was raging away on the phone, before throwing it across the street, making the blonde jump in shock as it skidded to a halt landing near her. Stooping down, Fiona was surprised to see that the phone was still working, and that she could still hear a shrill screeching voice coming from the phone. So walking over towards her friend, the blonde hit the end call button, handing him the phone. So, I take it that you and Angel are having it out? Yeah. Ignitus, what do you see in that girl? She's no good for you. All you two do is fight, Fiona said softly, looking at the redhead in concern. Fiona, you just don't understand. Then help me to understand, please. You're not yourself. You're angrier, and I don't know how to describe it, but lately you've been pretty snippy and short-tempered. I don't I don't know, but you're not your happy self, Ignitus. And don't say it's just a headache, because it's more than that. I know it is. You're like a different person when you're with her, and it's worrying. Ignitus scowled at the blonde as she took his hand, staring pleadingly at him. He stared at her before sighing, his features softening as his eyes landed on the raw scab lines on her wrists and the fading bruises on her neck. I'm sorry, he said quietly as his thumb ran along the raw red line, about what happened to you last week and about a lot of stuff going on. It's okay. No, Fiona, it's not okay, he said, letting her hand go and turning and walking across the street, the blonde following him. What are you following me for? He asked with a sigh. Ignitus, I love you. You're an amazing friend, and I only want to help you. I love you too, Fiona. If only she knew that when he said it, he meant it. You also never answered my question. Help me to understand what's going on with you two, Fiona said, stopping at the steps, watching as the redhead turned around. You really want to know about my screwed up relationship, Fiona? Really? If it'll help, then yes. If it'll help you, then yes. You say that I won't understand, but I've experienced a lot of stuff, and I might honestly understand more than you think I would. The blonde said, watching as he sat on the top of the steps, so now they were eye to eye. Okay, you want to know what's going on? We fight all the time about everything under the sun, Fiona, and the only time we don't fight is when we're smoking, drinking, or having sex. Which I'll admit is pretty damn awesome, except that there has been a lot less smoking, drinking, and sex lately, he said, watching as her face burned red. Not to mention that the only reason there's been less smoking, drinking, and sex is because she screwed up on keeping up with her birth control pills, and she's pretty sure she's knocked up. So she drops this bombshell on me while I'm up here taking care of my grandmother, so now she's convinced I'm cheating on her with you while caring for Nana because I'm not down there to be with her. That's what's going on, Fiona. Oh my glob, Ignitus, I'm so sorry, the blonde said in shock, watching, as now he smirked at her. Do you want to know what's worse? Now Fiona was hesitant, but reluctantly spoke up. What? All this time I've been in love with somebody else. Then why were you with Angel? Ignitus, if you're in love with somebody, you should have told them that. How could I? He asked quickly, and immediately Fiona understood. The person you love. They love someone else, don't they? She said sadly. Yeah, girlie. The person that I love is absolutely and unwaveringly in love with someone else, and I could never ruin that for either of them. I wish I could do something to make you feel better, but I have another question. Shoot. Even if the person you're in love with is with somebody else, why stay with Angel? Is it for the baby? Fiona asked, watching as her friend sighed. Yeah, it's for the baby. And if there wasn't one, would you still be with her? Now Ignitus thought about the question, and the more he thought about it, he knew the petite blonde would not be happy with his conclusion. Honestly, I think I would be. But why? He knew it. Fiona had a stunned look on her face and seemed to be in shock. Because I miss being touched and hugged. I miss feeling special and making someone feel special. I miss getting lost in the moment with someone, and even though I don't love her, I can do all that with her, he said softly, looking down at the ground. Ig, why not find someone else? Again Ignitus was silent for the longest time, and with a sigh he spoke, albeit quite softly. Because she's just as screwed up as I am, he said, watching as the gambit of emotions fluttered across her features. He could see the concern and the sadness and even frustration, all of that, and she still looked beautiful. You don't mean that. You're an awesome guy. You're amazing, and sure you can be a bit hot-headed, but that in no way means that you're broken or screwed up, Fiona said firmly, determined to make him see the truth about himself. I wish I could believe that. See, in a way we're the same because, while you grew up wanting a family and seeking love from others, so did I. My parents see me as nothing but a screw-up and a disappointment. They didn't even want to take care of my Nana. Aside from her, Ember's the only person in this family who cares about me. They wouldn't care if I up and died right now so long as they didn't have to foot the bill for my funeral. So, because you never had it growing up, you're looking for love in any way you can have, even if it hurts you. Ignitus, that's awful. You have to get out of that mindset. Ember tells me that all the time. Well, she's right. You shouldn't have to be with someone who fights with you all the time. It's not worth it for either of you. Give me a minute. I have to check up on my Nana, he said, standing and walking into the house, leaving the door open. Okay. Fiona sat on the front steps, waiting for Ignitus to return. She could hear him talking to his grandmother in the other room. Closing her eyes, Fiona rested her arms on her knees and relaxed, feeling the warmth of the sun on her skin. As much as she loved being with Marshall, she did miss it. Minutes passed, and hearing the sound of a car speeding up the street caught her attention, and Fiona watched with a cringe of severe dislike as the car screeched to a stop before the familiar blonde got out of the car, slamming the door shut. I knew it! I knew he was cheating on me with a skank like you. I'm sorry, what? Fiona asked, absolutely mortified at Angel's implication. Why the hell else would you be here if you two weren't screwing each other, huh? I'm not sleeping with him. He's like my brother. The blonde had to remind herself that punching a pregnant girl was absolutely out of the question and took a breath to keep her cool. Then why are you here? Because I live right there, Fiona said, pointing to her house across the street. Now can you stop yelling? Mrs. Flint is in there, and she's hurt and not feeling well. Hell no, I won't stop yelling. What's with all the... Angel, what the hell are you doing here? I came here to see you and this skank sitting on your front steps. Angel, what the hell? Call me that one more time, Fiona said, standing, but much to her shock, she was grabbed from behind, lifted right off the stairs, and set in the kitchen of Mrs. Flint's house before the door was shut, separating her from the outside world. With a scoff of annoyance, the blonde walked into Mrs. Flint's room, knocking on the door. Immediately spotted by the gray-haired woman, Fiona smiled. Fifi, dear, how are you, sweetheart? I'm good. How are you feeling, Mrs. Flint? Oh, sweetie, I thought we've been through this. Call me Blaze, the older woman said, patting the spot on the edge of the bed. How are you feeling, Blaze? Oh, this just feels awkward. Can I just call you Nana, too? Of course you can, Fifi. And I'm a little sore and feeling a bit cranky, especially since Ignitus won't let me light my candle over there. It's an aromatherapy candle, you know, she said, motioning to the glass jar, and walking over, Fiona grabbed it. Actually, I think he's right. It's really, really low. I could get you a new one, the blonde offered, watching as her neighbor shook her head. Oh no, sweetie, I couldn't ask you to do that. But it's no trouble at all, I promise. I couldn't ask you. I couldn't ask that of you, Fifi, not at all. Oh, okay. Do you know where my Iggy went? He said that lunch would be ready soon, but just hurried from the room. Is he in the kitchen? She asked with a smile. I'll go check up on him, okay, Nana? Sure, sweetie. Walking back to the front of the house, Fiona sighed. Ignitus and Angel were seriously at each other's throats out there. That couldn't be good for the baby. The fact that she could possibly be pregnant was such a huge shock, though. Now she was going to be in his life permanently. He still might not be pregnant. Walking past the door, Fiona entered the kitchen and found Ignitus's half-made lunch for his grandmother. Finishing the sandwich and pouring the heated soup into a mug, Fiona brought the tray into the bedroom. Here, Iggy had to deal with something outside real quick. Hopefully he'll be finished soon. Carefully, she settled the tray on Mrs. Flint's lap, making sure it wouldn't fall before she released it. Oh, thank you, dear. He's such a sweetheart, Fiona. My Iggy's such a good boy. He is. You're very proud of him, aren't you? She asked, watching as the elderly woman smiled. Oh, of course I am, especially since he took time off to take care of me. Not many young men would do that for their grandmothers, she said, taking a spoonful of the soup. No, not many would. He really loves you. I know he does, sweetie. Would you mind checking up on him? Not at all. Standing, Fiona walked from the room, once again, this time heading outside, preparing herself for the copious amounts of yelling. I lied, okay? I knew you didn't want to do this anymore, so I lied about being pregnant. Angel snapped her face red from their shouting match. Why the hell would you lie about something like that? What the hell's wrong with you? I can't. You know what? Forget it. It's done. I'm so done. It's ridiculous. The redhead shouted, his hands running through his hair. Yeah, well, without me, where the hell are you gonna get your next high from, huh? Immediately, Fiona felt as if she was invading on his privacy in a huge way. I don't need you for anything. I'll be fine without you and anything you could get for me. Like hell you will. I can see it. You're jonesing. How much do you think that skank will want you once she figures out that you're a flippin' drughead? Now he clenched his fist, trying to keep his temper. Get the hell out of here, Angel. I'm absolutely sick of you. It's over. What? That's right, it's over. We're done. I'm sick of you. Get the hell out of my life. He snapped, watching as she clenched her fists and pretty much had an all-out temper tantrum, stomping her feet, practically screaming, as she stormed over to the car and took off with the tires squealing. Turning, Ignitus punched the side of the house angrily, and glancing up, he spotted a shocked Fiona standing on the other side of the door, and quickly he opened it up, startling her in the process, and watching as she backed up several steps. How much of that did you hear? He asked, desperately grabbing her wrist as she tried to slip past him and out the door. Fiona, tell me how much you heard. Ow! Quickly her wrist was released, as the redhead gave Fiona an apologetic look. How much? Everything since she admitted the pregnancy was a lie, Fiona said, quickly covering her mouth. I'm sorry, I never meant to overhear any of that, but your Nana was looking for you, and I came to find you, and I'm so sorry. She watched as he closed his eyes and growled in annoyance. I'm sorry you had to hear all that, and I'm sorry I grabbed you. You can leave if you want. I have to take care of my Nana, he said, walking from the room as the blonde hurried from the kitchen out the door and across the street. She was embarrassed, not only for what just happened, but for what she'd just heard. Every single thing she heard was something extremely private, something that Ignitus would never want any of them to know about. But now she was curious, wondering if maybe, just maybe, Angel had brought Ignitus into a world over his head and left him there to drown. Okay, guys, so that's the end of the chapter, basically. There's some author's notes and stuff, but basically, that's it for the chapter. I'm really glad Ignitus and Angel broke up because she was obviously terrible for him, and I hate she's kind of just a crappy person. And I know that's the entire point, like, she's written to be a crappy person, but there's also other characters who just seemed shitty at the time who got redemption, like, Marshall's mom. Like, when you first meet him, you think, oh, she's a piece of crap, she's no good for him, like, she's just a bad person. But no, like, it's extremely nuanced. So who knows? Maybe Angel will get her redemption too. Although I seriously doubt it because I think any girl who would lie about being pregnant is just kind of an asshole and a terrible person. And I can't believe she did that just to keep him around. That's really fucked up. So anyway, I'm gonna be right back with the next chapter. I gotta take a break. It's 8:40 now, so I gotta take a break and I gotta take my pills. And then I'm gonna be back with the second chapter, and there's gonna be two chapters in this video. So, I will see you guys in a minute. Alright, I'm back with the second chapter. Tomorrow I'm gonna upload all this stuff, and I'm gonna record a ton. But I do just want to say that I think what I might do, I could probably fit 3 chapters in this video, but I think I'm gonna stick with the regular 2 chapters since the first chapter was so short. But I'm gonna stick with 2 chapters. But what I might do is read chapter 50 is because we're on chapter 58 right now. I'm about to read chapter 58. So what I might do is read chapter 59 and 60, and then once my Ethernet's all hooked up, as long as everything is fine, do a burst upload with chapter 61 to 67 because I want to end at chapter 67 and take a little break for a couple weeks because at chapter 67 we're going to be at the halfway point, at exactly the halfway. There's 134 chapters right now, so chapter 67 is going to be exactly the halfway point. But I do want to just so I do want to stop there and maybe take a short break, and then I might just. I've been exhausting this book like a lot, and I want to maybe take a little short break for maybe a week or two, and maybe do some other videos because I have been putting up the odd like video or two just to pad out the time, but I definitely want to take a break, and I do. Ever since I decided on getting Ethernet, I knew I wanted to as long as everything was working correctly, I knew I wanted to do a burst upload. So I'm gonna try and make that happen, and hopefully I didn't completely screw up by getting Ethernet. Hopefully everything goes okay with the Ethernet because I'm like really invested in this idea of having like super fast internet. I think that would be amazing. So I think what I might do tomorrow is record like I'm gonna record either tonight I'm gonna record chapter 59 and 60, or I'm gonna do it tomorrow and then I'm gonna record chapter 61 to 67 and make it and record it as though it's all going to be in one upload, and if I'm not able to do that then I will decide later how I'm going to portion that out. But I think I want to just sit here and record, but I think I want to just record those chapters. Either if I don't get it done tonight, I want to get it done tomorrow, and then that way it's ready. So if I do decide to do a voice upload, I'm going to be getting my packages on Saturday. But me and my mom are probably going to hang out. She said she's feeling a little bit better, so she even sounds better. So me and my mom are going to work out a plan, and hopefully it will involve just us hanging out and having our usual 6 hours together. Because at this point, we're probably just gonna end up sitting around the house just hanging out. Like, I don't see any problem with that. But in the meantime, I just wanted you guys to get some updates. And anyway, for COVID, but because she was sick with COVID, but she's getting better. And anyway, what I was saying was like I'm I want to have my Ethernet hooked up like either Saturday night after my mom leaves, even just to test it out, or Sunday, like I'm gonna wake up and eat breakfast and do all the stuff that I usually do, and then I'm gonna hook up the Ethernet. But either way, I don't know. I think I have everything I need. I don't think I screwed anything up. So, I don't know. I might have to Google what could go wrong with Ethernet later. But in the meantime, I'm going to record these 2 chapters. And then I'm going to post this tomorrow. Probably like first thing tomorrow. I might be able to post this tonight. If I can post this tonight, I will post it tonight. If I'm done recording this by like 10 o'clock, I might be able to edit and upload everything. Anyway, I'm gonna read the chapter now. Chapter 58, Looking Up. Marcia waited in the doctor's office. Every several chemo sessions or so, the doctor made it a point to discuss with Marshall exactly where they were in the treatment, how far they had left to go, and what the outlook was for the future. He watched as the man walked in with a rather thick folder that he recognized as his. So, after the most recent tests and the scans, I'm glad to tell you that the chemotherapy treatments are making a huge impact. You started off in the early stage 3, but as of right now, you're in the lower level of stage 2, very close to late stage 1. You're definitely beating this, Mr. Abadir, but I do want to stress, much like last time, that once it's gone, especially since you've had this twice now, it could come back at any time, though I hope it'll be gone for good. From the looks of things, you have another 3 or 4 months of treatment. Then we'll double the scans once you're done to find any possible remnants of the cancer and catch it before it becomes a problem. Hopefully by this time next year, you won't have to see me ever again, Marshall, he said with a grin. That's awesome to hear. Are there going to be any changes in the medicines, or am I going to stay on what I'm currently on? Marshall asked, looking at the medical folder on the desk as his doctor flipped through it before finding a particular page and scanning it through. um, Well, what you're on is currently doing its job very well. I'm considering putting you on something just a little bit stronger to hopefully wipe out the remaining cancer cells. That, of course, is if you're okay with that, he said, watching as Marshall sat there considering it. What kind of resulting symptoms will I have from that? Whatever you've been experiencing currently, perhaps more exhaustion, possible hair loss, the usual gambit of resulting effects. The doctor said, watching as Marshall looked reluctant before resigning himself to what he knew he had to do. Okay, you can do that. Will it happen today or will it happen for my next session? He asked, wondering when the next change in his medicine would be. After all, the last thing he wanted was a repeat of the medicine killing off his white blood cells again. He never wanted to go through that hell ever again. I'll write in your file the change to your meds, and the change will take place today. Is that okay, Marshall? Yeah, that's okay. I do have someone to drive me back to where I'm staying. Very good. Also, I ask that you stay for an hour after, just to check for any allergic reactions, especially since we're mixing up these new medications. Are there any other questions you have, Marshall? Leaning back in his seat, Marshall sat silently before responding. Yeah, I know that after I'll probably have side effects, but is there anything my girlfriend has to worry about? She's the one who usually keeps an eye on me, he asked, concerned for the blonde currently sitting out in the hallway. Nothing more than the usual, just be hypervigilant with washing their hands as usual after coming into contact with any bodily fluids. Okay. Well, I'll make the note in your chart and you're free to go downstairs. The nurse will be with you shortly. With a nod, Marshall stood and left the office, heading to the room down the stairs. Fiona following in step beside him the moment he left the office. He felt as her hand slipped into his, and turning to look at the blonde, Marshall smiled at her. Good news, Marsh? The blonde asked as she reached for his hand and squeezed it with her own. Good news, he said with a grin. Things are looking up. I'm not a stage 3 case anymore. Hearing this, Fiona hugged him tightly as she laughed. Oh my god, Marsh, that's awesome. Where are you now? Late 1, early 2, he said, hugging her back, feeling as she nuzzled her head against him. Marshall, I'm so happy to hear that. You don't even know, she whispered softly, lost in their own little bubble as she held her tightly against him. Oh, I think I know. Today I have to stay an extra hour because they're upping my medicine. They're giving me something a little tougher, so I'm going to be drained a little bit more for the last few sessions until I've finished, and hopefully it'll be for good this time. I hope it will be. Me too, he murmured, releasing the blonde as they continued walking, heading towards the elevator to his next treatment. To put it lightly, if he'd felt as if the previous treatments had put his body in pain, right now he was on the 7th level of hell. Fiona was beyond worried, and even the gentle touch of her hand on his head was causing discomfort. He felt freezing, his hands were numb, and the nausea medicine had definitely worn off because he felt like the room would just not stop spinning. Marsh, are you okay? The blonde asked worriedly. His skin was cold, clammy, and pale, and he was trembling. Do you want me to get you anything? Yeah, he did. He wanted a blanket, a warm blanket, and he knew that he probably wouldn't be able to stand the feel of it against his skin. He could barely stand the touch of Fiona's hand. He was afraid to open his mouth to answer her too, fearing that the bagel he'd eaten earlier this morning would come back up. I'll be back really quick, okay? The blonde said softly, leaving the room watching as Marshall nodded slowly, keeping his eyes shut. Fiona stared at him in concern before walking from the room and finding his nurse. Excuse me, she said, watching as the older woman turned to face her. Are his reactions to those new medicines normal? I don't think Marshall's okay. Let's go see. Let's go see him, the brunette said, following Fiona into the room and making her way to the young man lying on the gurney. Pulling out her stethoscope, the nurse helped Marshall to sit up as she examined him, listening to his heart and lungs. Marshall, are you having difficulties breathing? She asked as he continued to check him over, watching as he shook his head. Can you open your mouth? I want to check for swelling in your throat and tongue, she said, watching as again he shook his head no. Are you feeling nauseous? Quickly he nodded. Okay, I'll get you something for your IV right away. You don't seem to be having any allergic reactions to any of the medications. I'll get you some meds and a blanket. You must be cold, she said softly as she left the room. Thank you, the blonde called after her before turning back to Marshall. She sat quietly on the edge of the bed, waiting for the nurse to return, which she quickly did, covering Marshall with the blanket and putting a dose of the anti-nausea in the IV. It seemed that the moment the blanket touched his skin, Marshall sighed, pulling it tightly around him, feeling the warmth permeating into his skin. It was warm, a heated blanket that was so soft and warm, so much so that it was like a hug from an angel. The medicine should start to have an effect in the next 10 minutes or so, okay? She asked, watching as they both nodded, and with that the woman walked from the room to continue her rounds. The time passed slowly, and eventually Marshall felt well enough to speak. This sucks so bad, he groaned. I feel like death's warmed up on me here. Are you feeling even a little are you feeling even a little better than you were before, Marsh? Yeah, but I still feel terrible. This makes everything else feel like a walk in the park, and suddenly he gagged, and quickly Fiona grabbed the barrel, watching as he lost his breakfast, letting out a whining groan as he closed his eyes, concentrating on his breathing. Would you like some water for your mouth? Fiona asked softly, holding the cup up for him to see. Gratefully, Marshall took a sip to rinse his mouth free of the vile taste before spitting it in the bucket. This was not how he'd imagined his morning going. Well, at least he hadn't imagined it going this badly. The time had passed, and it seemed to take so long to do so, especially since there was nothing she could do to ease his discomforts. The chemotherapy had finished up, and so had the observation. It was the second time he had to be wheeled out of the hospital and into the car. I don't have work this weekend, so do you want to go to my parents' place, or do you want to go home to your house? Fiona asked softly, watching as Marshall sat in the seat next to her. Home would be nice, he mumbled, almost immediately falling asleep. Taking a left instead of a right, Fiona headed south on the highway, going towards Marshall's house. The drive was quiet and long, but instead of pulling off at the right exit, Fiona took the one before. If they were going to be at his place for a little bit, then they needed food, especially since Fiona had cleared the place out of anything perishable months ago. Parking the car at the grocery store, Fiona left Marshall in the car as she ran inside. The grocery list was short. Marshall could only eat so much. Marshall could only eat so much when he wasn't feeling well, so getting things that would be easy on his stomach was her main priority. She grabbed chicken, rice, milk, juice, and eggs. Luckily, Fiona knew that there were canned veggies at his house to put in the soup. Finding a bag of potatoes, the blonde headed to the checkout. Hey Fiona, you and Marsh gonna be down here for a bit? Turning, Fiona spotted the familiar voice. Hey Kate, yeah, he just got out of chemo and all he wanted was to just be home. I can't say I blame him either, Fiona said softly, scanning her items at the self-checkout, the dark-skinned girl standing behind her in line. Well, I just got off work and was busy, so would you like some company? Kate asked kindly. I know how tough it can be to take care of somebody. After all, I used to live with my grandmother before I moved here. Sure, we'd love to have you over. Do you have a ride? Yup, I have my car. I'll follow you, okay? Sure, the blonde said with a smile as she bagged her items and walked from the store. She had just finished loading her things in the back of the car when Kate pulled up next to her, and starting the vehicle, Fiona led the way to Marshall's house. Together, the girls helped Marshall into the house and up the stairs, and after tucking him in, Fiona giving him a kiss, they headed to the kitchen, the blonde intent on starting dinner. So, what are you making, Fiona? Kate asked, sitting down at the table, peeling the potatoes that the blonde had given her. I'm making chicken soup. Ah, I've heard that it's good for the soul, Kate said with a nod, listening as Fiona laughed. Well, it may be good for the soul. I know that it's good for Marshall's belly. I asked Simon how to make it the last time they got together, she said, now stirring the ingredients in a pot and moving to cut the potatoes that Kate peeled and dumping them into the boiling pot. That was sweet of him to show you how to make it. Are you making the rice to go with it too? I was thinking about it, but I kind of want rice pudding, Fiona said, closing her eyes and imagining the sweet cinnamon taste. My grandmama made the best rice pudding for breakfast, you know. Maybe I could make some? It'll take a little while, though. Kate said. Kate offered, watching as Fiona nodded eagerly as she finished the rest of the potatoes, watching in the dark as the dark-skinned girl stood and began gathering the items necessary. How long will it take? To make it right, it'll be a few hours. Fiona was shocked. That's as long as the soup. I know, but girl, it's worth it. Kate said, opening the bag of rice and pouring some out into a bowl and flooding it with water. What are you doing? The blonde asked, watching as her friend began swishing the rice around in a bowl. I'm washing the rice. See how the water's super cloudy? The green-eyed girl said with a smile, watching as Fiona nodded. Yeah, that's kind of gross, actually. Well, it's not dirt. Some places add enriching powder as a preservative, and you can cook it without washing it, but my grandma said to always wash the rice and to wash it really well, like 5 or 6 times. Isn't that a bit much? Not really, she said, dumping the water and washing the grains again. By the time that the rice water runs clear, it's about 5 or 6 washes anyways. Oh, yeah, it seems a bit excessive, but my grandma never failed me yet, she said with a fond smile, before pouring the damp rice in a new pot and flooding it with some milk, turning the pot on a low heat. All you need is low heat, some sugar, cinnamon, vanilla, and milk. That's it. All we have to do now is just let it simmer and stir it every now and again. When it's done, though, you have the best treat in the world, she said with a grin, while Fiona led her to the living room, where the blonde put in a movie, leaving every now and then to check on Marshall, who was sleeping soundly. There are always moments where you feel like you know someone, perhaps know them from somewhere, seen their face once before in a fleeting glimpse. Fiona couldn't shake the feeling that she knew Kate from somewhere. She couldn't recall where, though, and unknown to her, Kate was sitting silently on the other couch, gazing at the screen while her mind wandered the same place as Fiona's. She swore that she knew the blonde, that she recognized her from somewhere from her childhood, but there was no way it was possible. After all, what was the chance of that? Closing her eyes, she thought hard, pushing her honey-colored hair from her eyes. It was before she lived with her grandmother, but after her parents went missing. That would make her about 4 or 5. She could remember she could remember a lot of gray. It was what they wore, uniforms of some sort, and nuns? She gasped in shock, startling the blonde, and suddenly it hit her like a ton of bricks as she looked at Fiona. It was the orphanage! Huh? The group home with the nuns. That's where I know you from, Kate said, now pointing at Fiona, who was staring at her in a shocked confusion. The one on the west coast with Mother Superior. I knew I recognized you from somewhere, but I just couldn't place it, she said, watching as now recognition blossomed on the blonde's features. I knew you looked familiar. I just couldn't remember where I knew you from, Fiona said softly. I used to call you Cake. I named my cat after you, Fiona said with a laugh. We were only friends for about a year, though. Yeah, I was in the system until my grandmother could get custody of me. My parents just up and vanished one day, and the next thing I knew, I was living at the group home, Kate said softly. Then she smiled. I was so happy to see my grandmama. I have no idea where my parents went, but I think they died. But that's okay because the life I had with my grandmother was a wonderful one. But when did you get out of the group home? She asked, looking at Fiona. That's that's a long story that I don't like talking about much, Kate. But I did get adopted by my parents on my 17th birthday, and they're great. I couldn't ask for better parents. They're amazing, Fiona said with a smile. Give me a sec, I have to check on the soup, the blonde said as she stood, Kate following behind her and checking on her rice pudding. Another hour or so and this will be ready, Kate said, stirring the delicious smelling concoction. This is just about done. I'm gonna go check on Marshall, okay? Yep. Fiona headed up the stairs. The last time she checked on Marshall, he was sound asleep. But opening the door wider, she found him sitting up on the edge of the bed, breathing slowly. Hey, you okay? She asked, sitting next to him on the bed. Yeah, I felt so much better, but I think I can do this, Marshall said sleepily. Hearing this, Fiona nodded. Are you hungry? I made soup for you. I know how your stomach can be. I like that. Okay, do you want me to bring it upstairs or... No, I can come downstairs. I want a shower too. What is it? Would it be too much to ask if you could help me with that if I'm still feeling this dizzy? He asked, sounding somewhat embarrassed. No, I'll help you. That's no problem, Fiona said quickly, wondering where the shyness was coming from. Well, last time you were a bit nervous at the thought, so I figured I'd ask first, he said with a quiet laugh. Well, back then we hadn't done anything yet, so I'm a bit more open to the thought now, Fiona said with a blush as she leaned over, giving him a kiss. Kate's downstairs, though. Kate's downstairs, though, so the shower will have to wait until after dinner, okay? Okay, no problem, he said as he leaned heavily on the blonde as she held him up and slowly began walking, heading down the stairs. Do you need a break? She asked as they neared the middle of the flight. I'm okay. Okay. Dinner was wonderful, and after they shared in the dessert Kate made, she bid the pair a farewell before she bid the pair farewell, wishing Marshall a speedy recovery after giving the blonde a hug. Fiona and Marshall waited for a few more minutes after the green-eyed girl had left before heading to the shower. Marshall was feeling nauseous. Once they determined that he was not going to be sick, Fiona set up the shower while Marshall undressed, stepping under the warm water and letting it run down his back, while Fiona stood watching for any sign of instability. Thank you. Huh? Fiona snapped out of her zoned-out state before quickly looking at Marshall's face. I said thank you for everything you do for me. I don't know what I'd do without you, he murmured, and hearing this, Fiona smiled. You say that every time you're sick and I take care of you, she said softly as she began washing his back. It's because it's true. Without you, I really would be screwed here, Fee. Seriously, I'd probably be dead, he said, looking at her as the water dripped down his face as he turned, rinsing the soap off as he took the washcloth from her hands. It's because I love you. I know. I love you too. I know. Someday I'm gonna marry you, you know, he said with a grin, his eyes closed as Fiona shut the water off and handed him a towel. You're gonna have to ask me first, Marshall, and someday I'll say yes, the blonde said as she studied him, as, as she studied him, as he stepped onto the bath mat on the floor. You seem so sure I'll ask, he said with a teasing smirk. You seem so sure that I'd say yes. If you're gonna marry me, Marshall, you'll have to ask me, and I'll have to say yes, so, yeah, I'm sure you'll ask, because I'm just that awesome. The blonde grinned, watching as he carefully dressed, as she held him steady by his shoulders. Bah. Soon enough, he was dressed. Soon enough, he was dressed, and carefully they walked to the living room, both resting on the love seat, knowing the pain that the couch held for them. I'm gonna make it a point to actually buy a new couch sometime this year, Marshall said sleepily. We can pick one out in a few weeks, okay, Marsh? Sounds like a plan. Wanna hang out with the guys tomorrow? I know that this week FP's gonna be down here working. He, Ash, and Mo can hang out when they're out of work. That sounds nice. Can I lay down? He asked while the blonde immediately motioned for him to do so as she patted her lap. Lying on his back, Marshall rested his head on Fiona's thighs, his legs hanging over the arm of the love seat, while her fingers ran through his hair, listening as he sighed. I'm sorry I'm so tired, Fee. It's okay. You'll be better soon enough, Marshall. You just have a few more months left and you'll be fine. Do you think it'll stay away this time? I hope it does, Marshall. I hope with every fiber of my being that it does. Me too, Fee, Marshall said as he yawned. So I was thinking about forever ago, and I think you'd have liked my dad. Me too, Fee, Marshall said as he yawned. So I was thinking about forever ago, and I think you'd have liked my dad. Yeah? Fiona asked with a smile. Yeah, and I think he'd have liked you too. See, you're probably the most amazing person ever. Like, you're the good. All the good that could have ever happened to me. And I think my dad would have liked you for that. He could see stuff like that in people. Kinda like you can. Fiona could hear the exhaustion in his voice as he continued, his eyes closed now. I really miss him, Fiona. But for this past year, ever since I met you, actually it's like I know he's around. Maybe he was always there and I just couldn't tell. But maybe it's because you really are a moon angel. I'm no moon angel, Marshall, you know that, she said, smiling as he reached his hand up, his fingers brushing along her cheek. Maybe not, but you bring me so much peace. Nothing but peace. Fiona smiled, her fingers still running through his hair. Marsh, I've caused you nothing but trouble when I first met you, she said, thinking back to all the detentions they'd gotten into and the trouble they'd caused. Yeah, but it was fun, and I've never regretted a single second of it, Fee. Not one. Me neither, Fiona said softly, feeling as his breathing slowly evened out as he fell asleep. Okay, that's it for this video. I may or may not record more chapters later. Right now I have to eat something. I might actually I'm probably gonna have some food. I'm probably gonna have some food and then edit this and post it tonight. Um, I also just want to say that um I have I also just want to say that I started writing a fan fiction based on this story. Um, like it's it's gonna be a lot different, but it's kind of inspired by some of the stuff in this story. Like it's gonna be really intense, like really good highs and really bad lows, and then yeah, that's basically where I am. And I'm almost finished with chapter one right now. Like I started writing it, and I've already written the prologue, and I'm almost done with chapter one, and I do have every intention to read it on this channel, but it's slow to update because I have to write it. So because it's slow to update, it's also going to be slow to read on this channel. But I'll read it. I'll read some of it whenever I can. But I'm making plans to read the prologue and chapter one. I don't know, early next week if I can finish chapter one this. If I can finish chapter one the next few days. Um, but it's Wednesday right now, and I'm very close to getting Ethernet, and I'm also hoping it's and but also at the same time it's only Wednesday, so I still have like 4 days to finish it. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, I still have 4 days to finish writing it, so I'm probably gonna do that a little bit. Anyway, I love each and every one of you guys. Please don't forget to always be yourself, be good to yourself and others. You are valid, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.